completed 6 weeks and 1 week to go. On Thursday was the 40th day. On Thursday was the 40th day of the Omer. Okay, and you might not understand what that is, but the Omer, the counting of the Omer, is a perfecting process. And most of the body of Messiah does not take that serious. But they have to, this is a part of getting ready. Okay? We're actually going to meet the Lord. See, here's the thing. At Mount Sinai, Israel met the Lord. Okay? And that was a betrothal. Okay? But he's coming again, and we'll meet him. So we have to get ready for that. But we're also getting ready to meet the Lord. So we go through this perfecting process where we're developing what skills and talents we have. If you've had dreams about cars, if you had things happen to your cars and vehicles during this time, it's usually because that's what God gives us. It's like we all are just we're like driving, all of us. We're like driving. This flesh is not who we are. It's inside of us that's driving who we are. Okay, that's really who we are. That's our soul. That's what Yeshua came to save. Everything of who we are is inside of us, not the outward. Well, a car is like that. And we are forming a band here. A band that's going to have its day. And it's going to be a band called Anan Am. And it means the cloud, am I getting this right? The cloud of the people. Cloud people. Cloud being the glory cloud. Okay? And the goal is to come into the glory. Bring us into the presence using every kind of music imaginable, but given to the Lord. Okay? And that's what we're supposed to be doing. He's looking for praisers. He's looking for worshipers. Even Yeshua said to that woman at the well that a father is not going to be looking to just one place like Jerusalem, but he's going to be looking for us to worship in spirit and in truth. Worship. He deserves it. He gave everything he could for us. He deserves to be adored and worshipped. So we are all here, by the way. If you're a believer in Yeshua, you were made to worship him. You were created explicitly, but you have your own unique relationship with him. Okay, so this is a time of perfecting in the season that we're in. And we have one more week to count. And then comes Shavuot. So Saturday night, I'm expecting the glory cloud here. Okay? I'm expecting the presence of the Lord to show up. And we will recommit ourselves under a chuppah, a marriage canopy. And we will meet the Lord there. And he will be there with us. And he is there with us. He is with us. This Torah portion, we're not going to cover it very much. We began the book of Numbers, and it's called the Chukotai. It means if you walk by my statutes and decrees. Oh, I'm sorry, I have the wrong teaching here. I actually, it's not the Chukotai. That was last week. We started off the MIDBAR, which has to do with counting. Counting. It's when they counted how many Israelites were going to go, all the men that were going to go off to fight. It's when they separated the leaders of the tribes. It's when they separated the tribes on how they work in unison with the Spirit of God and with the tabernacle, and how they traveled and how they made war. Okay, so, but I'm not going to cover that today. I sent out the teaching to those of you on the email list, so you can look at it. What's more important to talk about is, I told you about the 40th day of the Omer. I just told you about it just a minute ago. This is the day that Yeshua ascended. He ascended into the heaven. He went and he visited. He appeared to over 500 people for for 40 days. And on the 40th day, he ascended. If you read Ephesians 4, 1 to 16, it says, we are to walk in a manner worthy of the calling with which we have been called, with all humility and gentleness and patience, showing tolerance for one another in love, being diligent to preserve the unity of the Spirit in a bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit, and we are called one hope of your calling, one Lord, one faith, one immersion. There's not Baptists, there's not Pentecostals, there's not Episcopalians, there's none of that stuff. That was all created by men. There's one Spirit, one hope, one faith, one Lord, one immersion. One God, or Elohim, and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. But to each one of us grace was given according to the omer of Messiah's gift. Therefore it says, when he ascended on high, he led captive a host of captives, and he gave gifts to men. Now this expression, he ascended, what does it mean except that he also descended into the lower parts of the earth? He who descended is himself also he who ascended far above all the heavens, that he might fill all things. And he gave some as apostles, some as prophets, some as evangelists, some as pastors, some as teachers, for the equipping of the saints for the work of service to the building up of the body of Messiah, until we attain to the unity of the faith and the knowledge of the Son of God, to a mature man, to the omer of the stature which belongs to the fullness of Messiah. As a result, we are no longer to be children tossed here and there by waves, and carried about by every false wind of doctrine, or by the trickery of men, by craftiness or deceitful scheming, or denominations. But speaking the truth in love, we are to grow up in all aspects into him who is the head, even the Messiah, from whom the whole body, being fitted and held together by what every joint supplies. Do you know that you guys are actually a part of the body, and each one unique? That's why you have so many body parts, and not one part is less important than the other. Every part is important. And everybody who puts someone else down, they are showing that they are hurting themselves, because they have something to supply. From the whole body being fitted and held together by what every joint supplies, according to the proper working of each individual parts, causes the growth of the body for the building up of itself in love. So Messiah ascended on the 40th day and gave gifts to men for the building up of the body. We are here to build you up, pump you up.
We
The Spirit. You know, God wants to build us up. You know what? If you ever go to a place and someone's tearing you down, I would immediately question that. Because we're not here to tear each other down.
Amen.
We are here to build you up. And you're here to build us up. Not one of us is better than the other. Okay, so we've been counting. And we got to the 40th day. 40th day of the Omer, the day he ascended. However, there's something else that happened during this time. And normally, I'm going to tell you about a day. It's called the 28th of Iyar, which I think is Sunday or Monday. Okay? Normally, the 20th of Iyar falls within a day of the 40th day of the Omer. But being that this year we started on a Sunday, we started on the Sunday on the week of Passover. It's different. We count for 7 weeks, right? And at the end. But being that Passover fell on Friday evening, the timing of it fits in such a way that the 28th of Iyar is separated from the 40th day for 3 days. But normally that's not the case. A lot of times, every year, it's within a day or maybe on the day of the 28th of Iyar is when the 40th day of the Omer falls. So why am I saying that? It's because of what I was just reading to you. That that it says, when he ascended on high, he led captive a host of captives and gave gifts to men. And it says now this expression, he ascended, what does it mean? That also he descended into the lower parts of the earth. Okay, where did Yeshua ascend to? He got captured by the unknown. Okay, literally. When he ascended, he was caught up in a cloud. It says that. Okay? And they were looking up and they were saying, oh, and the angels were down there on the ground and were like looking up, and he said that, why are you looking up? Don't you know he's going to come back in the same way he went up? So there is a connection here for his second coming and his leaving at this time. He said, wait in Jerusalem till the Holy Spirit comes upon you, which is the 50th day, the day of the Pentecost, or Shavuot. Shavuot in Hebrew, it just means 7. Shavuot, 7. Okay, and Pentecost means 7. Okay, so let me give you a little bit of a history lesson here. When the Jews were cast out of the land, okay, it says there was a guy named Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He was believed to be in the age where there was a lot of teaching, the Jewish teaching, Mishnaic sage. You have it on your notes. And leading disciple of Rabbi Akiva in the 2nd century. It is believed that on the day of his death, he revealed the deeper secrets of the Kabbalah in the form of the Zohar. I'm not talking about the Zohar or the Kabbalah here today. A landmark text of Jewish mysticism. Many Jews today connect it to the Bar Kokhba revolt against the Roman Empire. This happened on the 18th day, the day of his death, the 18th day of ER, and it almost always fell on the 33rd day of the Omer. So the Jews have a celebration called Lag BaOmer, and it's more important than any other celebration. But God did something amazing in recent times. Okay, so the Talmud states that during the time of Rabbi Akiva, 24,000 of his students died from a divinely sent plague during the counting of the Omer. The Talmud then goes on to say that this was because they did not show proper respect to one another, befitting their level. They begrudged each other the spiritual levels attained by their comrades. The Jews, the Yehudim, celebrated Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of the count, to celebrate the end of the death. People were dying and to celebrate the end of the death. Although there is no Jewish tradition saying that they stopped dying on this day, medieval rabbis from France and Germany said they died on 33 days scattered throughout the Omer period, giving rise to a myth that they stopped dying on Lag BaOmer on the 33rd day was designated as a celebration. After the death of Rabbi Akiva's 24,000 students, he taught just 5 students. Among them was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The latter went on to become the greatest teacher of the Torah in his generations. Now, why am I sharing to you? Why am I sharing about Lag BaOmer? Because the reason why Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of the Omer, became big on the Jewish calendar is that the Romans, when they sacked Jerusalem at 70 Common Era, 70 AD, they did not permit the Jews and Israelis from going into Jerusalem, for going into Israel. They even renamed Israel Philistia. That's where today we get the name Palestinia, or Palestine. There is no such name. It was to insult Israel. The worst enemies that the Jews had in the land were the Philistines. So the Romans, to mock Israel being scattered out of the land, renamed it Philistia. And later in English it became Palestine. There is no Palestinian, there is no Palestine. It is Israel. God gave it to Israel. Okay, now, to come back to this. I was curious about this. Why this big celebration on the 33rd day on Lag BaOmer? Because, you know what? The Jews do not cut their hair during the counting of the Omer. At the 33rd day is when they start to have a picnic. They take off. It's not a holiday. And in Israel, it's not a holiday. But they still find a way to take it off. and to celebrate the story of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, to honor the greatest teacher of Torah in his generation. Why? Because that was his death on the 18th. On the 18th day of the Omer. Now, here's what they used to do. They used to go to, they would go up to Jerusalem. In ancient times, there was a prophet. His name was Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Samuel. And actually, Rabbi Samuel, he was a prophet. He was a prophet and a judge of Israel. The greatest one, considered the greatest prophet. So much that at his death on the 28th of Iyar, at his death, everybody would go in the middle, during the Omer account, and go up to celebrate his life. Okay, so I was curious, what does his name mean? What was his life about? Okay, so let's looking at the bottom of page 1. The 28th of Iyar was originally in ancient times a day that our people went to the tomb of Shmuel, Samuel the prophet, at the memory of his death on the 28th of Iyar. He was on a Nazirite vow all the days of his life. You don't cut your hair. So on that day, all the Jews would not cut their hair for the first 28 days of the Omer. They would cut, actually more than that, up to the 40th day of the Omer. And they would cut their hair on that day, and they would have a big party. Did you know that what used to be the recognized going up to Prophet Samuel's tomb, because they couldn't enter Jerusalem, they decided, since Rabbi Bar Yochai he didn't die in Jerusalem, he didn't live in Jerusalem, he lived outside. So they could go up to his place to celebrate his life. But there's nothing there. The Jews celebrate Lag BaOmer, and it's meaningless, pretty much. I'm sure somebody's going to get upset at this if they see this online. But it's the truth. And I'll show you, it originally was supposed to be going up to the prophet Samuel's tomb. And by the way, since Israel's been back in the land, maybe some of them still go up now that they're in the land, but you don't ever hear about it today. All right, but you do hear about Lag BaOmer, or the 33rd day of the Omer. Okay? Now, what I want to say here is Lag BaOmer is not an appointed time, but there's a hidden appointed time called the 33rd day, the 28th of Iyar, that no one knows about. And most of the Jews in Israel don't even understand. But they do understand. They were made to understand it. Because you know what God did on that day? In 1967, it was in June, okay, early June. In 1967, God gave Jerusalem back to Israel on the 28th of Iyar. That was important to him, that we remember the prophet Samuel. And we remember, but not just remember prophet Samuel, but what it represents, what he represents. Okay, so let me just give you a brief history about the prophet Samuel. Prophet Shmuel, or Samuel, lived from 931 to 877 before the Common Era. Well, he was one of the most important figures in Jewish history. Our sages describe him as equivalent to Moses and Aaron combined. Shmuel was the last of the Shotim judges who led the people of Israel in the 4 centuries before the passing of Yehoshua and the establishment of a monarchy, and the author of biblical books of Shotim. In other words, Samuel wrote the book of Judges in your Bible. Okay, and Ruth. Shmuel was born in the city of Ramah in the year 2830 from creation, 931 BCE, after his barren mother Hannah prayed for a child at the tabernacle at Shiloh. You remember that story? And pledged. Remember, she couldn't have a baby. She cried out and went to the temple. And, "O Lord of hosts, if you will give your maidservant a man-child, I shall dedicate him to God all the days of his life." That's from 1 Samuel 1:11. At age 2, his mother brought him to Shiloh in fulfillment of her vow, where he was raised by Eli, the Kohen HaGadol, the high priest. And shortly thereafter, Shmuel had his first prophetic communication. 1 Shmuel 3. In 890 BCE, Shmuel succeeded Eli as leader of the Yehudim, the Jewish people. After 10 years, under Shmuel's guidance, the people approached him with a request. Appoint for us a king, like the nations around us. Shmuel disapproved of this request, believing that the people of Israel will be subject only to God and not to any mortal king. But Elohim instructed him to do as the people asked. So Shmuel then anointed, 879 BCE, Shaul, the first king of Israel. When King Shaul disobeyed God in the war against Amalek, Shmuel appointed David the king in Shaul's stead. Shortly thereafter, Shmuel, or Prophet Samuel, passed away in his birthplace Ramah in the hills of Yehudah. Okay, let's look at the name Shmuel. Okay, first of all, Shmuel means his name is El. Okay? That his name means his name is God. You know, just pay attention. Okay? And it's God who hears. Shmuel literally means God who hears. Okay? Now, he was from a place called Ramah. You know what Ramah means? Ascend. Ascend to. And it comes from a root word which is rum, which means ascend to a high place. To rise up, like we sang in the song. Rise up. Okay, so basically, Shmuel, which means my God who hears, or God who hears, rise up to God who hears. Rise up to God who hears. This is the meaning of Shmuel, Samuel from Ramah. Okay? Ascend to the place where El is and he will hear you. Okay? So everything about his name needs to ascend up. And when you go up to Jerusalem, you're going up. Okay? Where was Yeshua going up to? When he ascended on the 40th day of the Omer, he was going up. He was where? Where? To the New Jerusalem. To the one above. Okay? So, when we celebrate the 28th of Iyar, we're celebrating the ascension up to the New Jerusalem of Yeshua. Okay? And when he gave gifts to us, so that we can function down here. But here's something very interesting. When we go up, okay, when we go up, and by the way, that's what our praise does. You know that? That's what our worship does. It takes us up into heavenly places, into the New Jerusalem. That is called our mother in the book of Galatians. The New Jerusalem is called our mother. That's where we're going up to Mom. We're going up to the New Jerusalem. Okay, so isn't it interesting that Jerusalem was given back whole to Israel on the day of the 28th of Iyar, the same day they used to ascend up to Samuel's tomb, which means, at Samuel's tomb in Ramah, which means to go up and ascend up, to hear God, to ascend up to God who hears. All this is for a purpose. So here, in the ascension of Yeshua, which no one celebrates, or maybe some Catholics do, but they don't know the full meaning of it. Okay, but when he ascended, it's far more significant, but it has to do with Jerusalem. And it has to do with the New Jerusalem. It has to do with keeping our eyes on above and looking up. And God wants us to go up. Now, the 40th day of the Omer is when Yeshua went up, but sometimes they don't always match to the 28th of Iyar. So the 28th of Iyar is more important even than the 40th day. But often they line up together. You think God arranged that? I think so. Okay, so the whole thing about the 20th of Iyar is to ascend up. Ascend up in your spirit. Now, it's a very good day on the calendar. Okay, now, on Thursday, it wasn't such a good day. Only kidding. But there was some bad news in Israel. But But I think Sunday or Monday, tomorrow or Monday, I have to look at the calendar, is when the 28th of Iyar is. Now, because Israel recaptured Jerusalem, Israel declared that the 28th of Iyar was to be celebrated as a holiday. To make it a holy day, to make it like an appointed time, not an appointed time in the Bible, but a celebration where no one works, to have picnics and have celebrations. So Israel made a rule because of getting Jerusalem back in 1967, 2 years after I was born. Okay, made it a law. Okay, that you are to celebrate this feast. There is no law to celebrate the 33rd, the Lag BaOmer, but people still do it. Okay, under the 1947, we're on page 3. Under the 1947 UN partition plan, which proposed the establishment of 2 states of Palestine, remember they call Palestine, a Jewish state and an Arab state. Jerusalem was to be an international city, neither exclusively Arab nor Jewish for a period of 10 years, at which point a referendum would be held by Jerusalem residents to determine which country to join. The Jewish leadership accepted the plan, including the internationalization of Jerusalem, but the Arabs turned it down. As soon as Israel declared its independence in 1948, it was attacked en masse by its Arab neighbors. Jordan took over East Jerusalem and the Old City. Israeli forces made a concerted attempt to dislodge them, but were unable to do so. By the end of 1948, the Arab-Israeli War, Jerusalem was left divided between Israel and Jordan. The Old City and East Jerusalem continued to be occupied by Jordan, and the Jewish residents were forced out. Under Jordanian rule, half of the Old City's 58 synagogues were demolished, and the Jewish cemetery on the Mount of Olives was plundered for its tombstones, which were used for paving stones and building materials. But the state of affairs changed in 1967 as a result of the Six-Day War. Before they started the war, Israel sent a message to King Hussein of Jordan saying that Israel would not attack Jerusalem or the West Bank as long as the Jordanian front remained quiet. But they didn't. They didn't. Okay. Used by Egyptian pressure and based on deceptive intelligence reports, Jordan began shelling locations in Israel, to which Israel responded on June 6 by opening the Eastern Front. The following day, June 7, 1967, 28 of Iyar, Israel captured the Old City of Jerusalem. Later that day, Defense Minister Moshe Dayan declared what is often quoted during the celebration of the Day of Jerusalem, or Yom Yerushalayim. This morning, the Israel Defense Forces liberated Jerusalem. We have united Jerusalem, the divided capital of Israel. We have returned to the holiest of our holy places, never to depart from it again. To our Arab neighbors, we extend also at this hour, with added emphasis at this hour, our hand of peace. And to our Christian and Muslim fellow citizens, we solemnly promise full religious freedom and rights. We did not come to Jerusalem for the sake of other people's holy places, and not to interfere with the adherence to other faiths, but in order to safeguard its entirety, and to live there together with others in unity. The war ended with a ceasefire on June 11, 1967. In 1968, May 12, the government proclaimed a new holiday, Jerusalem Day, to be celebrated on the 28th of Iyar, the Hebrew date in which the divided city of Jerusalem became one. On March 23, 1998, the Knesset passed the Jerusalem Day law, making the day a national holiday. And one of the themes of Jerusalem Day is based on the verse out of Psalms. It's Kair Shechubra La Yakdav. Build up Jerusalem like a city that is joined together. Okay, so I just wanted to emphasize this to you. This is the day. This is the time that you need to think about the Jerusalem above. And are we going to be inhabitants of that place? Are we going to live a life worthy of that place? Are we going to ascend in our heart to the New Jerusalem? Okay, this is the day. This is the day that you can ascend. Okay, especially on this day. So it's like out of time. Okay, so we have this time. So right now, We have to be thinking about this in our own hearts. Okay, things happen as a result of the recapturing of Jerusalem. Within 5 years, there was a huge revival that took place in the United States and other countries. The revival was called the Jesus Movement, and it was called the Messianic Movement. For the first time in over almost 2,000 years, Jews were getting saved by the thousands, by the tens of thousands. This hadn't happened because Jerusalem was together. There is a connection to spiritual revival and the move of God and the connection to the city of Jerusalem. It has been a jubilee, more than a jubilee, since that happened. Things are already on the move. Things are already taking place, and we're getting ready for something. Okay, I have here a list of things that happened, revivals that took place connected to Israel and connected to the recapture of Jerusalem by Israel. Okay, and there are things that are unfolding right now. Okay, that are getting ready. Okay, even this past week, everybody thought that it was all settled, that Benjamin Netanyahu was going to stay as prime minister, but the Knesset was dissolved again. He couldn't form a unity government. He couldn't form it. So now there's going to be elections again next September. This happened at this time, during the 40th day, so something else is going on.
Amen.
Okay, so things are setting up, and I believe that as they set up for Israel, they set up for us as believers. Because we, as believers, are interconnected with Jerusalem.
Yep.
We are connected with the new Jerusalem above. Things are on the move. Things are happening. They might not happen exactly on the day when these events happen, but they in the spirit realm, they have begun to transpire. They have begun to move. It happened the same way. In 1967, Israel recaptured Jerusalem, but it took some 3 to 5 years before the move of God was established over the world. So it's happening again. It's been, 2 years since the Jubilee? So you can bet things are going to begin to roll and begin to happen. And you need to understand that the 40th day of the Omer is a very significant day for you, for all of us. It is a celebration of all the gifts that God has given us, and that He gave us the New Jerusalem. He gave that to us. And remember the 28th of Iyar, because that is a glorious day, and that's going to be a good day. And whether it falls on Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, because I haven't looked at the calendar. Okay, but it's going to be glorious. It always is glorious. And there's going to be a lot of celebration. Even though Israel's not too happy right now, there's still going to be a lot of celebration. There is every year on this day. Okay? God has made a promise to us. Through believing in Yeshua, He's also given us the kingdom. And Jerusalem will be the capital. Jerusalem will be the place of His throne. And the glory cloud will reign over Jerusalem. The earthly one, it will be changed into a heavenly one. In other words, the earthly one will be changed, but there'll still be the New Jerusalem above. But the heavenly temple will be on earth. The throne of God will be on earth. God is going to make His home in Jerusalem on earth. I mean, can you believe that? I mean, think about that. God dwells up in heaven, but He's going to make His dwelling for 1,000 years on earth, in the New Jerusalem. Heaven is going to be on earth.
Amen.
And that's what we're remembering and thinking about right now. Huh?
I'm sorry, I just got excited.
Even going to Jerusalem is going up here because it's going to become, listen, in Isaiah it says that Jerusalem will be the highest mountain on the whole earth. Why? Because we're going to be ascending up. You know, all the people that are living in resurrected bodies will be probably going between heaven and earth, ruling and reigning with Messiah. But those people who are still living in flesh will not die. They'll live 1,000 years. There will be no death. So if you are still in flesh, which, everybody in this room probably will be resurrected. So we won't be in the fleshly, but there'll still be people that survive the terrible things that are going to come upon the earth. See, hell has to come up from beneath before heaven can come up down from above. Because he's got to give the people their wish so he can bring fire down upon the earth. He's going to take the righteous before he pours out his wrath, and he's going to let all the demons out from where they're at, and with all the wicked people that have rejected him, and he's going to just let them have heyday. Actually, hell might be a nicer place than what the earth is going to look like for that period of time. But right after that, when he establishes his kingdom on the earth, heaven will be on the earth. So, it's going to be glorious.
Amen.
Okay, so anyhow, a lot of people don't know about this day. You know, the importance of the 28th of ER. But it is an appointed time. Lord has shown me that it's an appointed time. But he hasn't told anyone else. I'll say, okay, well, okay, maybe I'm wrong. No, I don't think so. Okay, so one day, maybe it'll be accepted. Maybe in the kingdom, the Lord will say, see, I told you, no one else believed it, but it's okay. I told you and you knew. Okay, and everybody else who I share it with.
Amen.
Woo! But anyhow, let's read Psalm 122 and we'll close. Okay. By the way, just for your information, Jerusalem is not a singular word. It's not a singular place. Did you know that? It's Yerushalayim. The im at the end is plural. So when we say Jerusalem, we're not talking about the city that's on earth. We're talking about the city that's above. There's an above city. There's one on earth too. We're talking about both Jerusalem. We're both Jerusalem. Jerusalem is more than one. Okay, and you know what it means? Teaching of peace. Because peace is going to be in that city.
Shalom, shalom.
Psalm 122. I was glad when they said to me, let us go to the house of Yehovah. Our feet have been standing within your gates, O Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim is built as a city that is compact together, where the tribes go up, the tribes of Yehovah, to the testimony of Yisrael, to give thanks to the name of Yehovah. For thrones are set up there for judgment, the thrones of the house of David. Pray for the peace of Yerushalayim. May they prosper who love you. Peace be within your walls, prosperity within your palaces. For the sake of my brethren and my companions, I will now say, peace be within you. Because of the house of Yehovah, our Elohim, I will seek your good. So if you will make that your prayer, for the peace of Yerushalayim, okay, and may they prosper who love you. In other words, you will have prosperity. I'm not trying to give you a formula to get rich or anything. I'm just telling you, that's what the Word says. You want to argue with someone? Argue with the Word of God. Okay? But it says they will prosper who love you. And I don't mean just, oh, I love Jerusalem. No. It means I love that place. I love what it represents. I want to learn of its ways. It's a city of learning. It's a city of peace. So, that's Jerusalem. That's what's coming for all of us. All of us who believe. We're coming to the holy city. You know, when that actual holy city comes down after the kingdom, it's going to be huge. It's going to be 1,500 miles square. Now, it doesn't mean like a cube. It means like all around. Square, this way, 3 gates. 1,500 miles. That way. 3 gates, 1,500 miles. Same thing like that, square. Okay, 1,500 miles. That's huge.
I understand.
Okay, it's a big place, and it's enough to fit everyone. Okay, so that's our hope. So after the Jerusalem on the earth comes the Jerusalem above, and there will be no more death on the earth or in the kingdom. There won't be any death, and there will be some death. Because it does say in the scriptures, but those who die will be considered accursed because they die at 100 years old. If they die, they'll be considered accursed. And that says that in Isaiah 65. So anyhow, that's what I wanted to share with you. I know it's a short teaching.
Amen.
But we need to understand that is the city we're looking for. That is the city we're living for. That is God's city. And that is the city we're trying to bring down through the music.
Amen.
The cloud.
Amen.
Like that cloud, and when Yeshua ascended the cloud, where was he going? And he was going into the New Jerusalem. We are going into the clouds of the New Jerusalem. I'm not. Okay, so we're bringing it down. And we're bringing it down to earth.
Yes.
Okay? So, Abba, in the name of Yeshua, Lord, I just ask that you just help us to understand, Lord, what it is, Lord, to not live by this world's standards, Abba, to live by your standards. And Yeshua told us how to pray, that may your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. But we want to bring the New Jerusalem down through our lives, Abba. The cloud of your glory, Lord. And forgive us, Lord, for all the stuff we do that hinders your cloud. Because we want the Anan. Lord, we want the Anan, the cloud, to be back with the